Is it true that you don't believe in dry cleaning too?
I don't like dry cleaning because I don't like the chemical, and I think it discolors the fabric after a while. If it is a silk shirt, especially if it is in white or cream white, after a few dry cleaning it turns like a gray. And I believe that silk is a natural fiber, for instance, and it's basically been invented by the Chinese, like, hundreds of years ago. And way back then, I'm sure they don't know what dry cleaning is all about. And everything is washed. And I think if you know how to wash a garment, you can almost wash anything, except, for the exception of a blazer. I think it would be pretty foolish for someone to throw in a washer. But for, cotton shirt or linen shirt or, silk, you can just wash it, and provided don't throw it into the dryer, they don't shrink, and wash in cold water, and then you iron it yourself. I iron all my own clothes. I still do. My Sunday mornings will be ironing my shirts. Yeah.
By choice, of course.
Yeah.
It's odd, though, that you should leave Paris at probably the height of synthetic period, in the late 60s, early 70s. Were you never tempted in that direction? Say when you went to New York for your further studies, was all the rage now synthetics? What
do you mean by synthetics? I don't get you.
Well, the age of polyester was upon us pretty quickly. Now, you learned to deal with the natural silks, and you still work mostly with wools. And,
with the natural fibers, yes.
But were you never tempted to be re-educated by the modern fabrics and easy-to-care-for items such as polyesters and nylons?
At the time, I must say, I never really liked synthetic fibers, but these days, yes, I'm using quite a bit of it because, you know what, first of all, there's one reality, is that there's such a shortage on natural fibers, and they become so costly, and at the same time, because of the modern technology, a lot of synthetics are actually looking really, really wonderful because the texture it provides, the softness, the hand and everything. And actually, in a matter of fact, like since the last couple of seasons, I've been using a lot of, say, blends like viscose and wool. And as of in the past, I would probably use 100% wool. But you know what, that little bit of viscose make the wool much, much softer, and it drapes beautifully and added a nice sheen to as well, so I think, I'm changing in that regards. Yes, in the past I love natural fibers, I still do, but at the same time I'm not rejecting synthetics anymore.
And would you say that people also are embracing at least the practicality and the beauty of synthetics? Or
oh, I think so, yeah, definitely.
Not that same resistance, is there?
No, no.
Very good.
Because polyester is not what polyester used to be. Polyester way back then looked like a piece of plastic, but not anymore.
Now, if I have it right, you went to New York in the early 70s, and your misfortune there was Canada's gain. I understand you had a little problem getting a working visa for the United States.
That's very true. I went to Parsons, and then after I finished my school, I worked in New York City, actually illegally for maybe close to 4 years. And I loved the city, and at the same time, I guess I met a lot of friends, good friends, and it was very difficult for me to want to go back home. Actually, by then, I loved my freedom, I enjoy living on my own. I didn't want to go back to Hong Kong. And at the same time, they won't let me stay in New York City, and it was difficult for me. And I kept getting deportation letters from the immigration, and then I thought, well, I hate that feeling because I love the city so much. I would like to be able to come back to visit, but if they put me on a plane, which means I would never be able to come back. So for that reason, I chose to move to Toronto. because back in my head, it's only 1 hour away from New York City, and I could still go back to visit.
But in those days, Toronto in 1972 was not exactly the center of the universe, if Canada. Now, wasn't it a bit of a quiet city at the time? I mean,
it was very quiet. I guess my impression when I first got to Toronto was there's a lot of openness to the city because there's hardly much buildings. There's only a couple of tall buildings, if I remember, like the TD buildings downtown on King and Bay Street, those black towers I remember, but everything else is quite flat, and very few people, and I was shocked, in a matter of fact, when I asked people where's the garment industry because I want to look for a job, and they told me to get to Spadina Avenue, and I said, is this it? And they said, yes, this is it. Basically, the garment industry was only a few blocks long, and that's it. Stretched maybe 4 or 5 blocks. That's basically it.
Then how did you make a living in Toronto? Were you illustrating at the time, or?
I was, it was tough in the beginning because the industry was small, and it wasn't difficult for me to find a job. I was pretty lucky I got a job almost immediately. But the pay was so little compared to what I was making in New York City. And they said, well, we realize, your qualification, but this is Toronto, and we could never match up with what you're making in New York City. And I can tell you at the time my first job in Toronto was $125 a week.
Wow.
That's in 1972. And so it was hard, compared to I was making like about $400 a week in New York City. And it was hard to sort of live comfortably, and for that reason I had to work freelance for McLean Hunter, for Style magazine as an illustrator. And I did some work for Chatelaine magazine, and also Miss Chatelaine magazine, which became now Flair magazine, and just to make some extra money would allow me to do my travels, which I love and enjoyed. In those days, I frequent back to New York City. So that's how I get started.
So you remember those days quite fondly, then, don't you? Early Toronto years.
I did, yeah, because it was fun. Yeah. And then I remember, finally I opened my little shop because I got fired from my job.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Your boutique was called Moon.
That's right, yeah.
Is that after your name, is it? Your Chinese name?
My Chinese middle name. And that was a lot of fun because it was exciting. It was my very own business. And
where was it located?
The very first store was located on Carlton Street, which was not the most popular neighborhood way back then. And I was neighbor to my dear friend Marilyn Brooks. And actually she encouraged me. She said, oh, Alfred, why work for someone, be my neighbor, rent a space next door. And
it was very risky though, wasn't it?
It was, but I guess, like when you were young, I guess you just have all the drive and energy, and somehow I was not afraid about it at all, and I just went for it. And I started with very little amount of money. It was a lot of hard work, but I guess because it's your own little shop and you don't mind working long hours, let me tell you, I couldn't even afford to buy a cutting machine, so I would cut thick corduroy pants, 2 pairs at a time with a pair of scissors, and my hand, this part here, will all get blistered, because, like after cutting, so many pairs, it really hurts. But as I said, it was fun then because, you just get such enjoyment and happiness when you see customers come in and loving those pants or shirts, and when you make a sale, you just get so excited, and I would run out and buy some more fabric and cut more pants because I couldn't afford to buy, hundreds